All right, so today we are going deep on organizational culture.
Ooh, interesting.
It's something that we all experience but rarely stop to really think about.
Yeah, for sure.
To help us unpack it all, we've got a fantastic article. It's called The Invisible Challenge Transforming Culture, and it's by Carolina Sordelli.
Oh, Carolina Sordelli. I've heard of her. She's the CEO and founder of Muda Studio.
She is, and she's got some pretty amazing insights into this world of organizational culture.
I bet. So what's the mission of this deep dive then?
Well, we want to kind of uncover what culture really is and how it works, but also how to see it maybe in our own lives, maybe even how to shift it if we need to.
I love it. Sounds useful.
Definitely. And Sordelli has this great way of describing culture. She compares it to water to a fish.
Okay, I like that. Go on.
We're swimming in it, shaping it, but we often don't even realize it's there.
I can already see why this deep dive is going to be so valuable.
It's true, isn't it? We don't often stop and think about the culture that we're in.
We don't. We just kind of exist in it.
It's just there. It's like the air we breathe.
Totally. And we only really notice it when something feels off.
Yeah. Or when we move from one culture to another suddenly.
Exactly. Like joining a new company or even just a new team.
It's so true.
It's like, bam, different water.
Different water, totally. Okay, but before we go any further, we have to answer a pretty basic question.
All right, shoot.
What even is culture? Like, how do we actually define it? Because everybody talks about it, but it feels kind of slippery.
Yeah, it does. And Sordelli actually brings up this exact point in the article.
Oh, she does?
Yeah. She says there's this struggle to define it, but she gives a pretty solid definition.
Okay, what is it?
She says, and I'm paraphrasing here a bit, but she essentially defines culture and the interplay of formal and informal elements within a group or an organization. Values, beliefs, behaviors, how things get done, and especially how people interact.
That interaction piece, I think that's so key. So it's not just about individual habits.
It's not.
It's about the collective vibe.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's those unwritten rules that kind of shape how a team functions.
Exactly. So have you ever been in a team and just immediately there are all these unspoken expectations?
Oh, all the time. Like, I've got to stay late every night,
Yeah.
or the boss always wants to be CC'd on every email.
Or don't even think about challenging the boss.
Ugh, yeah, been there.
And that right there, that is culture in action.
It totally is.
Yeah.
And it can make or break a team or even a whole company.
Definitely. A strong culture, like Sordelli writes, can be a superpower.
Mm.
It can drive success and innovation.
Enough
But then on
time.
the other hand, a dysfunctional culture,
Oh, yeah.
that's when things get messy.
It can be a recipe for frustration and stagnation.
Absolutely.
Like everyone's paddling in different directions.
Oh, I like that. So culture is powerful, but it can be kind of hard to see, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do we even start to uncover these hidden currents?
Well, this is where Sordelli's Mutta Deep Culture Framework comes in. She compares organizational culture to an iceberg.
Oh, an iceberg. Okay. I'm already intrigued. So the stuff we see, that's just the tip, right?
Exactly. So we see the behaviors, the day-to-day interactions, the way people are working, the outputs, but underneath the surface,
Underneath.
there's a whole lot more going on.
So what is lurking below the surface?
The invisible elements,
Okay, tell me.
beliefs, motivations, emotions.
Wow. Okay. So if, for example, a company is trying to build a culture of transparency, but like deep down people are afraid to admit mistakes,
That's the point.
are they going to be successful?
Probably not. It's like trying to steer a giant iceberg by just pushing on that little tip.
You've got to go deeper, right?
You've got to address those powerful currents flowing beneath the surface.
Okay, so let's break this down. We have the tip of the iceberg. We said those are the behaviors.
Yep.
Now, Sordelli makes a distinction between behaviors and habits, right?
She does. A behavior is a one-off action. A habit is a behavior that has become ingrained.
Like automatic.
Totally automatic. Think of it this way. A team might have an amazing brainstorming session, right? But if that collaborative behavior doesn't become a habit, it just kind of disappears once the project's over.
So for a culture to actually shift, we need to go from behaviors to habits.
Yes, exactly. We need those desired behaviors to become like second nature.
And that's where this invisible layer of the iceberg comes in, right?
Exactly. Our beliefs, motivations, and emotions, they're the fuel behind our habits.
Okay, so let's plunge into those deeper waters then. Let's unpack what each of these invisible elements actually looks like in a workplace.
Okay, let's start with emotions.
Okay.
We often try to keep emotions out of the workplace, but emotions are always there, aren't they?
Totally.
They influence how we act, how we react, Think about a time you were so excited about a project that you went above and beyond.
Or the opposite, like so frustrated you totally checked out.
Yes, exactly. And emotions are contagious too.
One person's negativity
Oh, tell me about it.
can bring down a whole team.
Totally.
Okay, so we have emotions. What about motivations? What are those?
Motivations, that's the why behind our actions. Why do we do what we do? It could be recognition, a sense of purpose, or even just avoiding a negative consequence.
And those motivations can be wildly different from person to person.
Oh, absolutely. Even within the same team.
Exactly. Okay, last one. Beliefs. What are those?
Beliefs are deeply held assumptions about the world. These can be so ingrained we don't even realize they're shaping our choices.
Okay, so for example, if somebody believes they're not creative,
Mm-hmm.
they might avoid brainstorming sessions, even if their team really values innovation.
Perfect example. Their belief becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy.
Wow. Okay, so these invisible elements, they're constantly interacting. They're shaping how we show up at work, how we interpret things.
And how we make decisions,
And here's the kicker, right? They're often invisible.
even to ourselves.
Even to ourselves, wow. Which brings us back to that fish analogy, right?
It does.
They don't realize they're in water because it's all they've ever known. We're so used to our culture, we take it for granted.
Even when it's not working for us.
Exactly.
And this is why diagnosis is so crucial.
Oh, okay.
We need to move beyond those surface observations and really understand the water we're swimming in.
So have you ever felt like you were the only one who saw a problem in your company's culture?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're surrounded by this murky water, but everyone else seems fine.
All the time. And I think it happens a lot.
It does, right. And that's exactly why this diagnosis is so important.
Exactly. We need to map the shared reality,
Shared reality.
even if people aren't consciously aware of it. Sordelli uses this concept called intersubjective reality. She's borrowing it from Yuval Harari.
Okay, break that down for us. What is intersubjective reality?
Well, it's the space where culture lives, right?
Yeah.
It's not objective reality, which is just facts, and it's not purely subjective, which is like unique to each individual.
So it's kind of this in-between space.
Exactly. It's the shared space of beliefs, norms, meanings, all that stuff. We co-create it through our interactions.
Oh, I see. So it's like this web that we're all tangled up in.
Exactly. And understanding this web is key to diagnosing what's really going on.
It's not just about individual behavior then?
Nope. We have to analyze the systems and structures that are reinforcing those behaviors.
So it's like looking at the whole ecosystem.
Totally. So Delhi gives this example of a company that wants to be agile, right? But their processes are all bureaucratic nightmares.
So they're sending mixed messages.
Totally mixed messages.
Or imagine a company that's like, we value innovation, but then they only reward people who play it safe.
Yeah.
That's a disconnect.
Big time disconnect.
Yeah.
Words and actions have to align.
Totally. So how do we start to untangle this web? What does cultural diagnosis actually look like in practice?
Well, that's where we'll dive in next.
Awesome. I'm ready to go deeper.
We're going to look beyond the surface behaviors, really uncover the beliefs, motivations, and emotions driving those actions.
Sounds fascinating.
Oh, it is. Trust me. Diagnosing a company's culture, it's like detective work. You know?
Okay, so we're putting on our detective hats.
We're looking for clues,
Clues.
patterns, contradictions, really trying to understand what's driving people's behavior.
So it's not just about sending out a survey that's like, how would you describe the company culture?
No.
That's too simple.
Way too simple. Those surface level assessments, they only tell you so much. You got to dig deeper.
So how do we dig deeper? What are some tools or strategies we can use?
Well, one powerful technique is to analyze communication patterns.
This reminds me of when I was working on a project and there was this like unspoken rule that you couldn't question the manager's decisions.
Oh, I hate those unspoken rules.
Right. Even if you had like a genuine concern, you had to kind of tiptoe around it.
Oh, yeah. And that creates this culture of fear.
It does.
It stifles creativity. It's not good.
Okay, so let's say we've done the detective work. We've diagnosed the culture. We've figured out those unspoken rules, those hidden patterns.
Okay.
We're ready for a transformation. Where do we even begin?
Well, first, we need to acknowledge this is a journey,
Not a sprint.
not a sprint, not a quick fix.
So there's no magic wand we can wave.
I wish it were that easy. Culture's deep, you know? You can't just change a mission statement and expect everything to fall into place.
It's about mindsets.
It's about behaviors.
Deeply held stuff.
Deeply held stuff. And it involves everyone, not just the leadership team.
This is making me think of a time at a previous company when Leadership launched this big initiative to be more customer-centric. They wanted everything to revolve around the customer, which is great in theory,
Right.
but they didn't really involve the frontline employees in the process.
Oh,
It
no.
all felt very top-down and forced.
Yeah. You got to bring people along. You can't just impose it on them.
And ultimately, it didn't really work. The customer service didn't actually improve.
No surprise there.
So how do you get everyone on board, especially if there's resistance to change?
Communication is key. And not just any communication. We need a shared language around culture. What does culture even mean in our company? And what are we actually trying to change?
Because you could have all these different teams running around with completely different definitions of what the new culture is supposed to look like.
Exactly. Chaos.
A Frankenstein culture.
That's a good way to put it. We need alignment.
And then I'm also thinking we need to be pretty honest about the current state of things, right?
Right.
No more sweeping problems under the rug.
Yeah, you're reading my mind. Transformation requires honesty. Sordelli calls this revealing the organization's true colors.
Which can be scary.
For sure, it takes courage
Mm.
from leadership.
And from individual.
But without that honesty, you're just building on a shaky foundation.
I'm thinking of this company that was trying to rebrand itself as like this innovative disruptor, but their internal culture was still super hierarchical, very risk averse.
Oh, yeah, that disconnect.
Actions speak louder than words.
Way louder.
So we need buy-in, we need honesty, we need a shared language.
What else?
What else is missing? What's the final piece of the puzzle for cultural transformation?
Execution. And that's where change management comes in.
It's not enough to just have the vision, right?
Nope. Vision without execution is just hallucination.
Ooh, I like that.
We need a roadmap. How are we going to get from point A to point B?
So it's about process, communication, support.
All of that. And one of the most powerful tools, I think, is something Sordelli calls culture generators.
Okay, culture generators. I love the name. What are they?
Well, think of them as intentional interventions. Little things you can do, rituals, practices, systems that reinforce the new behaviors.
Oh, interesting.
They help those new behaviors become embedded habits.
So it's not just about talking about the new culture. It's about actually creating experiences that bring it to life.
You got it. Think about it. Every company has rituals, right?
The weekly team meeting, the
Oh.
way feedback is given, even just how decisions are made, those are all rituals.
They are. And we can design them to align with the culture we want.
I remember when I was at a startup, we had this ritual of a daily stand-up meeting. 15 minutes, everyone shares their priorities and roadblocks for the day. Very simple, but it really fostered this sense of transparency and collaboration.
That's a perfect example of a culture generator. It's a small thing, but it can have a big impact.
So what are some other examples? Give me some inspiration.
Okay, how about a new performance review system, one that emphasizes teamwork instead of individual achievement?
Okay, love it.
Or a mentorship program,
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
connecting senior leaders with more junior employees.
Awesome. Or even something like a company-wide volunteer day.
Yes,
Yes.
that reinforces a culture of giving back.
Okay, I'm getting it. These generators can be tailored to the company's specific values and goals. It's not one size fits all.
Exactly. It's about being intentional. What behaviors are we trying to encourage? What experiences will make those behaviors stick?
It's about taking those big abstract ideas and making them real.
Turning them into action.
I love it. It's like we're building a culture brick by brick.
And it's a continuous process.
It is. There's no finish line.
It's about constantly adapting, experimenting, evolving. But now you've got the tools to do it.
These culture generators,
Yeah.
they make cultural transformation feel, I don't know, less daunting, more like something we can actually shape, like over time.
It is. It's a process.
It's like instead of trying to move this giant iceberg,
right.
we're focusing on those little things.
Yeah, exactly. It's taking those big abstract ideas
Yeah.
and turning them into action. Concrete things you can actually do.
And I'm also thinking, even after a successful transformation, the work isn't over, is it?
Oh, no, not at all.
Culture is constantly evolving. Like inside the company, things change and the world outside is changing.
Hey,
We have to adapt.
We do. It's like tending a garden, right?
Hey,
You plant the seeds, you nurture the soil, but you got to keep weeding,
keep watering.
keep adjusting to those seasons.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So it's about ongoing awareness and, I guess, intentional culture management.
It is. And I think this is where leadership really comes in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Leaders need to be those culture champions.
They have to set the tone.
They do. They're constantly monitoring the culture, nurturing it, making adjustments as needed.
It makes you think about how much emphasis leaders put on, like, strategy, operations, financials,
And number.
all that stuff, yeah. And those are all important, obviously. But culture, while it's less tangible,
Hmm.
it's just as important, wouldn't you say?
Oh, I would say even more important.
Really?
Culture, if you get it right, it's a huge competitive advantage.
Mm.
It can help you attract amazing talent, drive innovation.
And create a sense of purpose, right?
Exactly, a shared purpose.
We've talked a lot about the how of cultural transformation,
Mm-hmm.
but let's talk about the why. Like, why should we even care about creating a healthy culture? Why is it so important?
Because culture is the foundation for everything.
Really, for everything.
Yeah, it shapes how we communicate,
Yeah.
how we work together, how we make decisions, how we feel at work. A positive culture can bring out the best in people.
It can make people more engaged,
And creative.
more fulfilled.
Absolutely.
But, and I think this is important to acknowledge,
Uh,
toxic culture can do the opposite, right? It can be so damaging.
oh, yeah.
Burnout,
Turnover,
negativity, all that stuff.
it can impact people's lives even outside of work.
That's so true. Their well-being.
It's about more than just profits.
So much more. It's about creating a workplace where people feel valued, respected, and inspired.
I love that. Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive.
I want to leave our listeners with a challenge.
Okay, I like challenges.
Think about your own workplace, or even just your team, or even your personal life, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's one small thing, one culture generator that you could introduce to shift things in a more positive direction?
It could be as simple as like starting each meeting with a moment of gratitude,
Okay.
or encouraging more feedback,
Ooh, I like that.
or just really making an effort to listen to your colleagues.
Because sometimes those small changes,
Yeah,
they can have a ripple effect.
absolutely.
And who knows, maybe those ripples will turn into a wave of positive change.
I love it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you surfaced with, some fresh perspectives on organizational culture.
And maybe some ideas to help you create the kind of culture that brings out the best in everyone.
And remember, this journey is ongoing. So keep exploring
Keep experimenting.
and keep cultivating.
The culture you want to see in the world.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening.